Hello everybody, Malacite here, and today we are going to be covering the strengths, weaknesses, builds, and tips for Paragon's newest hero, Countess. Now, she is a growth and order assassin, the second one to be added to the game, the only other assassin being Kalari. And that's pretty much where their similarities end, because whereas Kalari is a fighter who focuses primarily on melee attack, on her basic attacks and using her kit to escape, Countess is a melee caster who uses her abilities to get in, kill people ASAP, and then bug out. So her first ability is a Blade Siphon. It does a quick AoE, or it's pretty much instant. It's an AoE all around her, complete 360 degree, and it has a passive effect of healing 1% per rank of the skill of her max health. So at rank 4, you will heal 4% of her life. And on a hero kill, you'll recover 40% of your max life over a couple of seconds. It's pretty powerful. It's honestly not the greatest skill for clearing waves or even damaging heroes. It should mostly be used at the end of a burst as a last-ditch effort to finish off a kill. You almost never want to open with it. Her second ability is the Shadow Slip. This is one of her, in my opinion, one of her most amazing skills. It allows her to instantly teleport forward to a target. If you teleport to a minion, you will instantly kill it outright, but keep in mind these are just regular lane minions. If you try this on a jungle minion, as I will demonstrate later, it will simply just hurt it a little bit. It won't actually just outright kill it. It also applies a fairly potent slow, which is critical as an advanced tactic using this ability, and revolves around, which I will showcase later. You basically blink toward the target, and then you lead them off in a different direction, and then before the timer is up, you blink back to where you originally warped from, and more or less juke them. It involves, not gonna lie, it involves a fair amount of luck as well as skill to pull off. I unfortunately didn't save the clip where I did manage to do just this against both a Chimera and a Murdoch in the jungle, and ended up killing both of them in the process, which was amazing. But more often than not, it goes pretty well. At higher levels of play, people have learned how to anticipate this, so you won't get away with it as often. But it works. I'd imagine it still works fairly well in the lower ranks. Then we have her Dark Tide. This is her primary damage dealing skill, and also this is the first skill you should be grabbing and maxing out as soon as possible. It sends out a conal AoE that right out in front of her. It's got a fairly wide area of effect to it though, and it does staggering amounts of damage. Countess actually has the strongest wave clear in the game out of all the heroes. In one of my builds for her, I running pretty much max damage. Mine tops out at just under 600 damage. With Prime buff, it actually will go over that and outright kill an entire wave of minions. It's really powerful. It's also amazing for stealing kills on the Prime Guardian, which I do have a clip of. And then we have her ultimate, which is Feast. It causes a brief stun and also a really cool animation for whoever's on the receiving end of it. Wherein she basically forces you to look at her, and like the screen kind of grays out, and then you just take a whole ton of damage. This, in my opinion, this ability is broken. It is absolutely stupidly overpowered, especially since it stays at 100 mana. It doesn't even scale up like some of the other ults do. I got a feeling Epic's probably going to nerf it in the future. But for now, it's just awesome. The scaling on this ability is insane. Like I said, in my maximum damage build, I typically max out at just short of 1500 damage, which against low health heroes, or anyone just not building armor, so like most rangers and some casters, just well, any caster but Iggy pretty much, if they're not careful, you can actually one-shot them outright from full health. I've done it before. It's terrifying. Alright, so with that out of the way, let's go to the builds. So I have 3 decks that I flip between with her. The very first, each with their own, strengths and weaknesses. The very first one I made for her that I had fairly decent success with, but I'm actually kind of torn on whether I want to keep, is a high cooldown, high damage build. So I have 3 Chrono Spikes, all filled with damage, as well as a Pendulum of the Lords, so altogether giving me maximum cooldown, which admittedly is probably overkill. 15 to 20% is probably enough on her, especially since if you go for 20, the blue buff will give you the other 20% you need for the duration. But it is nice having her ultimate up again and again, because that, like I said, that even if you're not dealing a whole ton of damage, that ultimate scales incredibly well. Where you'll really notice it is on her Dark Tide. The more damage she has, the better for her Dark Tide. And then I have Scourging Tails, which is an insane card for her. You typically want to use this right before engaging with Shadow Slip, so that as soon as you land on them, their armor is shredded. So yeah, it knocks out 80 physical armor off the target for 15 seconds, and it's only on a 45-second cooldown, so it's only down 2/3 of the time. It's pretty good. I've got just a little bit of early game armor that I throw away later, and then I have a Stab Link in here, which admittedly I haven't had all that much success with. My theory with this was that since she basically heals herself on every kill, it would more or less offset the cost of the Stab Link, which it does. The only problem with Stab Link is the fact that if you're hit, you can't use it for 5 seconds, which means you effectively cannot use it to get yourself out of a pinch. You can only really use it to engage, or if you can somehow put enough distance between yourself and the opponent. For example, using the aforementioned Shadow Slip technique, where you jump in, try to lure them away, blink back out, and then as soon as you're out, if your timer's up, hit your Stab Link right away to put some more distance, and that will work, provided you're over the health threshold. You can't use it if you're below 20% of your life. The main reason for this for Blink Charm was because of the healing and the fact that it's only on a 15-second cooldown. Otherwise, if you're looking for something to get yourself out of a bind, like if you're completely surrounded, you have no way out, I would go with Blink Charm. The second build that I have is a more defensive one, so similar deal. No cooldown in this. I have just a bit, about 4 points, three points worth of mana. I find between 3 and 5 is more than insufficient on her. Any more than that is absolute overkill. I've got a bit of health from Amulet of the Veteran, and early game that I replaced with a late game armor. I only have about 7 points of armor worth on each, because again, your primary focus here is to be killing heroes, not to tank damage. This is just to help you stay alive a little bit longer while you're doing that. And then a Void Steel Dagger, of course, for some 10. And then the last build that I have, the one that I actually have the most fun with and I've had the most success with, is just basically going full ham and embracing her role as an assassin. So this is my pure damage build. So I open with a couple of adamant edges, which I eventually throw away, and then a fountain spike. I also give an Assassin's Ward. The Assassin's Ward is not something I normally take on a caster, since the 1 point of lifesteal is pretty much wasted. But the nice thing about this card is that you get all 3 stats right away, whereas most wards you get 2 points of stats and then you get a third one when you fully upgrade it. This gives you everything up front, and excuse me, it has a lot of versatility to it too. Again, the lifesteal is pointless, but the fact that you can add pen or damage on it can be very nice. Of course, everybody has a different array of cards, right? I don't have as many major strikes as I would prefer, so this is how I've loaded mine out. If I had more, I would probably toss more in here and ditch one of the Void Steel Daggers, probably, and slap like just like a Sinister Pierce in here or something. So yeah, my 2 Fountain Spikes I keep, and then my Void Steel Daggers. All told, it's probably a little too much pen. So I've got 4, 5, I've got 7 points, which is a little on the high side, but it's not. Between 4 and 5 is usually enough, especially if you're going to run Scourging Tails, because Scourging Tails will help you, should give you all the extra pen you need to help take down like a Steel or a Richter or a Rampage. But in general, yeah, your primary stat that you want to focus on is damage and penetration. Second, you want to have a healthy mix of health and mana. For defense purposes, you want either a little bit of health or a little bit of armor. How much is up to you. Cooldown is a nice thing to get as well, but not necessary. And then, yeah, that's pretty well it. I mean, don't bother stacking attack speed. I've seen some people use cards like Swift Creek hard on her. Don't do it. Casters scale very poorly with attack speed. Typically 10 points of 10 CP worth of speed will get you minus 0.01 like it'll take you down from like 1 second delay to like 0.9. It's not worth it. You're screwing yourself over by doing that. Okay, so that about covers the builds. Just for a few other cards though that are helpful to her that I didn't go over necessarily are yeah, Wicked Sigma maybe. So other cards that could be really good. I've seen some people try to use Trader's Touch. Not a fan. Scarab Claws is a really great card if you're to sideboard if you're worried about facing up against Muriel, since you'll basically shred all the armor from the target. It's a passive. Like you don't even have to activate it. Anybody who if they have a Muriel in their group, they're screwed if you have this. Every single time you smack them with a basic attack, all their armor is gone for 6 seconds. Siren Song could be okay, but it's not that great. I mean, you already slow them when you teleport to them, so it's just kind of overkill at that point. Same with the Necroveil. I mean, plus the Necroveil doesn't. Well, the Necroveil could be useful in that you go invisible for 3 seconds, right? So that could be if you're really trying to be fancy and escape after a kill. But the 2 stats it gives you do not help her at all because she doesn't deal energy damage, and it's a fairly high cost. It's 6 CP for a character that probably doesn't really need it when you're better off ensuring the kill in the first place. Another card, where was it? I've seen some people run Drink the Spirits. My personal opinion is it's overkill. Her passive provides her more than enough sustain as it is. This is basically just adding on to that. I mean, you can go for it if you want. It's not critical though. Baneflesh is definitely a card worth considering. I personally don't use it. Whenever I fight a rampage, I prefer to just pop Feast on him as soon as he's at half health or less, so that he doesn't even get the chance to regenerate. But it is worth considering, since Baneflesh will basically shut down Chimera, Quang, and Rampage pretty hard. And then the last card I tried to play with, had limited success with, I've seen some people use it as well, is Charging Brute. Yeah. Particularly because of her wave clear, Charging Brute can be pretty strong. It will give her a lot. The only problem with that is you're going to be burning your mana really quickly, killing waves, and her basic attack damage, it can work. It can honestly work pretty terrifyingly well by late game, when you have enough damage that your basic attack actually hits hard enough to reliably last hit minions. But before it's still kind of risky. It's a lot of this is a card that's better suited to characters like Sparrow, Rampage, and Chimera. It's not. I mean, like I said, it can work. I wouldn't necessarily advise it. Another card. Sorry, there's 2 other cards I just remembered. Gift of the Rains is very much worth considering on her. It gives you a little more sustain in between kills, which is nice. But the main thing here is for the mana regeneration. Because Countess is a burst type character, it actually is nice to have mana recovery, so that you're keeping your mana up in between those spikes of damage. Now you can make the case that maximum mana is better as well, and technically it is in a straight up engagement because you want to have a bigger pool to dip into. But if you're planning to stay out in the field longer and using your Dark Tide to clear waves in between, the mana recovery is going to help you more. I did have some pretty good success with this card. I took it up. The only reason I'm not running it now is because I actually deleted the build I had running with it before. Not that it was a bad one, I just wanted to try new ideas. And another one is, Clearheart. Clearheart is a phenomenal card for her. Unfortunately, as you can see, I don't have one, or I'd be using it. Because it increases all healing received by 15%, including regeneration and lifesteal. again, I don't have it, so I haven't been able to test it personally, but whoops, okay, the audio cut out there, sorry about that, folks. Yeah, so as I was saying, yes, the passive on Clear Heart stacks with her with her passive ability to heal on kills. So you go from 4%. I'm not sure how that works. I think it's 15% on the 4. So that's not, it's really not that much on the minion kills. Where you'll really notice it is on the player kills. So you'll go from 40% to, let's see, what's the calculation? So about 46, I believe. Yeah, it should go from 40 to, but and it allows you to stack some mana recovery. So it's definitely a good card to run on her. Maybe not the strongest, but it's certainly worth considering. So that'll cover it for the cards, and now we'll go into the general tips and some examples of how to play her. Alright, so real quick before we get into the advanced tips, we'll just cover what Countess's strengths and weaknesses are. So as I said earlier, she's an assassin like Kalari, so she has a fairly weak start. She has low health, almost no armor to speak of, and because she's a caster, her basic attack damage scales poorly, and she won't really benefit from crit or attack speed. So she's very ability dependent, and thus requires mana and or cooldown to sustain any kind of lengthy, prolonged fights. But you typically want to avoid that with her anyway. What you really want to do is get in, kill somebody, get out. So with that said, your primary targets are going to be other casters, rangers, and fighters who are low on health. People you absolutely want to avoid, if possible, again, unless they are low health, are Greystone, Quang, Chimera, Rampage, Richter, and Grux. They will mess you up something fierce. You do not want to fight them if you can help it. Right, Steel as well. Basically, like any of the heavy melee characters, like they can all go toe to toe to her quite easily. It's just Greystone, Chimera in particular are really aggravating because they're tough and have burst damage. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean that you can't kill them. I've certainly done it before. You can absolutely take them one-on-one more towards the late game, but you have to be very careful with how you engage them. You can't just walk up to them all willy-nilly expecting to kill them from full health. It's not going to go well. All right. And then so here's just an example of how you typically want to engage. Blink in, go through your abilities, and then blink out. Dead character. Easy peasy. I should point out here that yes, I am doing this against just little dummy bots, and therefore that Greystone was pretty weak. And here's what I was talking about earlier. Look at that, 600. It almost one-shot the wave outright. If I had had Prime Buff, it would have done it for sure. Alright, so in the next clip, I'm going to be showcasing you how to use the blink properly, which you just saw a bit of, but we're going to show it again. So here's some of the more advanced tactics. Here's the escape I was talking about. So you go in, get your blink ready. I do the blink in, wham, smack them around, lure them away, and then blink out. And look. See, plenty of distance between us. There's no way he can catch me. I'm totally safe. It won't always work, but well. And then here's what happens when you blink on a minion. So just gonna target him real quick. Blink in, boom, instantly killed, and out. And then here's an example of the scary potential that Countess has, the power dive. So I'm just again duking it out with the dummy AI here. Clearing out the minions, and then what's going to happen is he's going to knock me right into the inhibitor, which of course is the most damaging power of all. Just go in, don't care, kill him with the ultimate, get out, and look at that. He'd hardly even know he hurt me. And then the minions come in, clear them out too, easy peasy, boom, and look at that. I have actually more health than when I started the engagement. And then here's just another example of me getting attacked, taking relatively large amounts of damage, really. And then just, shaking off like it's nothing. This is why I prefer maximum health over armor on her, because the more health you have, the stronger her passive is. Not that armor is bad. Armor will help you get more mileage out of your health. It's just with everybody running so much penetration these days, unless you have a lot of armor, it's just going to get negated, so you might as well stack health instead. Alright, and then the last thing here is just me stealing the prime buff from another team using my Dark Tide, because like I said, it hits so hard, it's perfect for doing this. Just go in, boom, mine, peace out. Alright, hope this has been helpful, you guys. Have fun with the new hero, and I'll see you next time.